Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today I just wanted to talk about life and sort of keep you up to date with what's going on. This is my hand reveal. Look at my giant little fingers. I'm listening to music, I don't know why, just because I feel like I get a better flow. I don't expect anything to say to ever make sense. Today I was just going to practice drawing since I had some free time, and I thought I'd share with you one of my pieces of art. Perhaps not my best, but who cares? Today I just wanted to talk and be like, you know what? Why not me? So often in life, I feel like most people think to themselves, yeah, there's great people out there. There's wise people. But, I'm not going to be that. I think we all look up to people. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe it's a sports player. Maybe it's a rabbi or a priest or some other religious figure. I'm not going to deny I'm ignorant. And I was just thinking to myself, why can't I? Why can't I become some wise sage? And I guess that's sort of what this journey is. The camera's not in focus. There it goes. This is just sort of my attempt at becoming the wise one. Just wanted to talk about two philosophies and people I've just kind of fallen in love with over the years. I've fallen in love with Taoism, and I've fallen in love with Judaism. And I had a very, 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 very brief time going to synagogue when I was in college. And I'm not an expert on Judaism. I don't claim to be. But I'm so very grateful that I spent some time in the Jewish community. And I hope to spend more time in the Jewish community. I'm looking into maybe going to a synagogue, but I'm still not Jewish, so I don't want to go to a synagogue and make others feel uncomfortable. And another philosophy that I've just fallen in love with is Taoism or Taoism or however you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. And that's something I definitely want to study more of. And I guess I wanted to get into sort of this idea of classical training and being self-taught. I have an immense interest in philosophy, but I've only can really say I've been classically trained, meaning I took a class on it, on only one philosopher, and that was Bertrand Russell. So I don't claim to be an expert on philosophy. And just to talk about, like, should you become classically trained or self-taught? I think there's a time for both. I think sometimes in life you should be self-taught and sometimes you should be classically trained. I've never taken, except for back when I was in state-mandated public education, an art class. And even then, the art class wasn't the most rigorous or difficult of classes, and I wasn't the most invested. And I found art to be a good way to get a better understanding of what I believe Taoism is. And I don't know enough about Taoism to say what Taoism is or is not yet. I have a fun saying I like to say, I now know enough to learn. I don't know enough about Taoism to learn yet. I almost know enough about Judaism to learn about Judaism. I'm very close to knowing enough about Judaism to learn about Judaism. And I guess I wanted to just talk about peoplehood. I think for me, there came to a point in which I realized I didn't have to subscribe to the peoplehood I was born into. Maybe you grow up in East Asia and you're like, I want to be in America. I was watching a video. It was a joke. It was a meme. in which someone says, they walk up to someone, I don't know their nationality. I believe they were Chinese. It's been a while since I saw the video. And they said, do you have any New Year's resolutions? And the man said a little timidly, yes, I want to be more American. And the person kind of said, what does that mean? And then fireworks started going off. He puts on a cowboy hat and he says, ho ho, Ford Mustang, ha ha, independence or something. Just starts saying like, American, what the hell is a kilometer? Just like being very loud and proud and very American. And I just sort of thought to myself, I don't know where this man is from. He might have been born in America. He might not have been born in America. But I would say he was an American. I think you become a part of a culture when you know enough about that culture that you can make jokes about that culture to people of that culture, and those people are not offended. And for me, I got to a point in which I started thinking to myself, it's not that I dislike America. It's just I don't really identify myself as an American. This might seem like an odd thing, and when I say it, people might try to put it into modern day context or present context. Sorry, present context would be a bit more accurate way of saying it. I really don't see myself as a man. I really don't see myself as a woman. I really don't see myself as white. I really don't see myself as black. I mean, I know I am a white man. To deny that I am a white man is, to deny reality. But for me, it's more, I'm not this, I'm not that. I don't try to take pride in who I am. I'm just me. I don't see myself as white. I don't see myself as a man. I don't see myself as this. I don't see myself as that. And I like drawing flowers. They just feel more forgiving. When you start drawing animals, people know what an animal looks like. But flowers just feel more forgiving. That's what I like about drawing flowers. I don't know. I don't really have a reason to make this video besides I just want to talk. And I guess I just wanted to talk about peoplehood. I've heard some people describe it as the country you live in versus your nationality. You can live in Germany, but you see yourself of the nation, of the people, of the French. And I think there's truth to that. I think everyone should find, well, maybe not everyone, but I think there's value. I'll phrase it that way. I think there's value in finding your people. Finding people you identify with. For some people, it might be their race. For some people, it might be their heritage that they've come from. I don't know what it should be. I don't know what it is for me. But I think there's just so much peace and joy that comes from finding your people. And that's been a very tricky thing for me over the years, is just finding, who are my people? And it's annoying that when you try to find your people, you might be called, oh, he's an Uncle Tom, or race traitor, or sex traitor, or this or that. I don't need to belong to the family that I was born into. That doesn't mean I should hate my family or want to run away from my family, but I don't need to feel as though those are my people. They're not. That doesn't mean I hate them. That doesn't mean I wish them ill will. I'm just saying I'm allowed to not be who others tell me I should be. I'm allowed to see the world. I'm allowed to travel the 7 seas. I don't need to be what other people tell me to be. I don't need to be a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, a Taoist, a Hindu, a Confucius. I don't need to be a man or a woman. I don't need to be this or that. I can just be me. I am. Who, when people ask Jesus, who do you say you are? Jesus said, I am the one who is speaking. I am me. I thought about becoming a psychologist, and I thought that would be a lot of fun. And then I realized that wasn't what I wanted to do. And I can be angry that I spent all of this time and money pursuing something I realized was not meant for me, or I can be grateful for all of the things that it taught me along the way. I got a lot of classes done, a lot of that I won't have to take again. I was able to very briefly study Bertrand Russell classically. I'm just dividing classically, meaning you went to school, or you went into trades, or there was some formal education versus self-taught. I don't really like the word informal education and formal education, because you can teach yourself something in a very formal way. I've taught myself things very disciplined, in a very concise, in a very truthful way. I don't know what I'm saying. And to me, that it informal makes it sound as though I was just going around doing who knows what, just trying to figure it out. No, it was very disciplined. I've never received any formal training or classically trained in computer stuff, and truth be told, I haven't tried too terribly hard yet, but I don't know. I prefer using the word self-taught. Maybe some people prefer using different terms, but I am the one who is speaking. To quote Jesus, I am the one who is speaking right now. I don't know. I've never liked Jesus too much. I guess I've grown a little bit more a little bit more pro-Jesus. People like to say, well, there's the historical Jesus, and then there's the Jesus that, people claim to worship. And I'm like, I don't like either. I don't like the Jesus that probably existed, who sometimes are just called historical Jesus. I think he was probably a cult leader. I know I just offended 50,000 people. You know what? I won't use the word cult leader because that definition is so, well, he wasn't a cult leader. But I just didn't like him. I just never liked this Jesus dude. I apologize, that was the wrong word. And, the people are like, well, you need to separate him from his followers. It's like, okay, so how do I do that? Well, you read the New Testament. Then I read the New Testament, and I quote things that Jesus Christ has said. And they're like, well, you're quoting it out of context. And then I give it more context. They're like, well, it's possible that Jesus Christ never actually said that. That's just Luke's interpretation of what Jesus Christ said. Well, then how... If I don't know what Jesus Christ has ever said, how can I actually critique him? I might do a video in which I make a better argument and actually write up a script and explain why I'm not a huge fan of Jesus Christ. Actually, I dislike Jesus Christ as a person. I don't actually dislike Christianity. I think Christians have improved upon what Jesus Christ has said. I think what Jesus Christ has actually said and done, and the person who was Jesus Christ, wasn't actually that remarkable of a person. But I am indebted to Christianity. I mean, so much of the Western world, and especially Western philosophy, is built off of Christianity. I can't just deny that. I can't just say that Jesus Christ, I don't know. It's weird. I just like Christ. I don't dislike Christianity. I just find the person who is Jesus to be annoying. Well, that's all I got for today. And to close up, I'll just say, you don't have to be what other people tell you to be. You don't have to be this or that. And you'll offend people along the way. I never want to offend people, but sometimes if you want to make room for yourself, you got to push back the people trying to take over your space. So in other words, let's all man spread.